What is the scariest paranormal activity you experienced? Story 1. My wife, girlfriend at the time, was sleeping over at my house. I was dealing with a bit of insomnia at the time, so I was lying awake in the middle of the night when I heard something fall from my computer desk. For whatever reason, it scared me enough to hide under my blanket. Then all of a sudden, I hear your typical horror movie heavy breathing right in front of my face outside my blanket. I'm pretty much frozen in fear listening to this breathing noise circling the bed, sort of. My wife starts to toss a little bit and then rips her blanket off to get up to use the restroom. She shuffles towards the end of the bed to get down, and next thing I know, she screams with so much terror and instantly starts to cry, saying there's a little girl sitting on the floor at the edge of our bed. My next move was I stoop up on the bed and jumped off probably as far as I can make it towards the light switch. I asked what the hell she saw, and she just described seeing a girl in the fetal position, looking fairly distressed, look up at her when she was getting off the bed. I told her that I heard breathing outside my blanket right before she saw it. So needless to say, that light stayed on the rest of the night. Story 2. Lived in a 100-plus-year-old mansion that had been divided into apartments. Roommate and I lived on the top floor with attic access and a private entrance on the back of the house. One evening, I was watching a movie with my boyfriend when my roommate texts and says he's bringing a date home. Is it okay if they use the big TV? I say sure, and BF, and I moved to my bedroom to finish our movie. Shortly after, we heard heavy footsteps come up the back stairs, open and close the very noisy and squeaky kitchen door, and hear them walk across the kitchen, past my door, and down the hall. We finish watching our movie, and BF goes home. It's shortly thereafter I realize that I am the only person in the apartment. Called roommate to see if he'd been home, and he says, no, we just got a Blockbuster. We're going to choose a movie and head home. I called my BF and told him I was spending the night at his house. Story 3. I've written about this before, but when I was a preteen/young teenager, my family moved into a house. It started with hearing footsteps in the attic, which wasn't tall enough for anyone to walk around in. We attributed it to rats, but it made my grandmother uncomfortable enough that she stopped visiting. We started seeing things. A woman peeking around corners, a little boy running around, and the shadow of a man at the end of the hallway. My dad's bedroom was across the hall from my brother's room, and I often slept in there. Me and two of my brothers were watching a movie one night when I saw a man crawling on his hands and knees into the room. I thought it was my dad, who often did things like this to scare us. I gave the signal that I saw him and went back to watching the movie, expecting him to grab my little brother's foot. He was sleeping next to me. Then he opened his door, flooding the hallway with light. There was no one there. I've never been so terrified. Story 4. My deceased Uncle Tim was super into Ouija boards as a teen. My dad's family are super religious, so I'm surprised he was able to get away with this. One day, he's playing with the board, and he sees something in the corner of the room. It was big, completely black, and had huge horns. The only colorful thing on it were its red eyes. It scared the shit out of my poor uncle and put the board away, but never officially said goodbye. My uncle told my dad what happened, and he thought it was just his big brother trying to scare him. Though when my dad did tell me this story, he did note the creature had a description of something from a holy book. From that night on, my dad would have horrible nightmares if he ever slept in that house. They only stopped when he moved out for college. My uncle was sadly killed a few years into my dad's college, and so was my aunt. Personally, I believe both of their deaths had something to do with the creature. Time skipped to many years later when I'm like 8 or 9. This was around the time I was getting my own room, and my dad wanted to get a mattress. Since at the time we weren't that rich, he wanted to get it used. My other uncle, who lives in their childhood home, offered to give my dad the mattress their deceased brother used. Thing is, I didn't know this was his dead brother's mattress. My uncle didn't tell him this. He brings it to our place, and our dog is sitting outside in front of the garage. My dad starts unhooking the mattress from the top of the car, and my poor dog freaks. She stands up and just runs into the garage. My dad brushes it off as our dog, being anxious. She had a very bad experience with her previous owners, which left her a little traumatized. He starts bringing the mattress into the garage, and the poor dog is cowering in the corner and barking at it. This dog never barks. I think this was the first time my dad even heard her bark. My dad decides to bring the mattress back to my uncle's place. He was incredibly pissed. He asks his brother which room the mattress is from, and my uncle says it's Tim's mattress. Father Dearest, being the person he is, puts it back in the room and does a quick look around. He swears he saw the thing my uncle brought in with the Ouija board. We rarely visit that house now. My uncle had to move out due to health issues, and it's basically abandoned. But whenever I go near that room, I feel I'm not alone. Story 5. He was home alone, early 2000s, so was on MSN/AOL, chatting on her house phone in the basement with every single light on. After signing out of her computer, She went upstairs where she received a phone call on her landline. It was her grandmother, who started berating her, asking who was in the house with her. Confused, she continually stated that no one was home with her. Her bio dad was banned from the house at the time, and her nan insisted she wouldn't be in trouble if she just told her who was there. At this point, she's thinking her nan is just trying to scare her when her nan says, "Well, I just got a phone call from your caller ID saying bring home light bulbs." After hearing this, she grabs a bat, calls her mom/stepdad to come home, and barricades herself in her bedroom. When they got home and did a once-over of the house to clear it, they went down to the basement and every single light bulb was dead.